Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's Michelle here from BWELLHIVE, and we're going to be touching base this evening on the hormonal balance. I'm starting off at 8 and kicking off straight away because I know people might be busy this evening, and I just thought, you know what, I would record it as well, and that it will go up in the system so you can watch back anytime you feel like it. So welcome everyone to the hormonal balance, and I'm just going to share my screen so that I have, so here we are. So what we're going to try and do is get back into balance. Okay, so and this is where I'd love to show you. Okay, so this is where I'm going to just kind of touch base on hormones and why we're going over the hormonal balance this month. Okay, so get back into balance is the name of the hormone harmony balance, and it's all about learn to tame your hormones and regain your health. And it's really working from the healing the inside out. And I thought I would work really on supporting the overall balance and giving you a real good insight as to how and why our hormones work, and how we can support them going through the next kind of 14 days. So it's all about optimizing and balancing to improve our gut health and hormonal harmony. So we're going to be looking at that this evening to ensure our hormones are balanced and optimal. This session will take a holistic approach and combine lifestyle changes to support a more, shall we say, natural balance inside and out. And this is very much about bringing everything together and the hormones together as well. So about your hormones, and this is all a little bit of information so that you know kind of what's going on in the background. So I thought I'd touch off really the chemical messengers transported to the tissues via the bloodstream. So we might have mentioned this before. So they come from the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the messages are sent right down into the body. So we have hormones in our brain and we have hormones in our body, and they're sent via the tissues and in the bloodstream. So this very much works with every receptor in the body. They regulate major bodily functions like or organs like our liver, or gut hormonal balance around our tummy. So from hunger, from not feeling so great, and they also support and regulate the body fat. Is also a hormonal organ, and this is very key really, because a lot of what happens is in the fat cells of the organs. So in order for us to feel well, we need to be nourishing all of our cells in all of our body with the right nourishment and the right foods. So how hormones work, okay? So just to tip off it slightly, you have the pituitary gland in the brain, and that monitors the levels of the hormones. So whether they're rising, whether they're falling, whether going through the different phases. And as we know, or may not know, we have the follicular phase, we have the luteal phase in the hormonal cycle. And this all really kind of is to support reproduction and for us to have a baby and to reproduce. Okay, so if the levels are low, it stimulates the hormonal glands to make more specific hormone. And number 3, then if the levels are high, the production gets switched off and reduced. Okay, and these are very temperamental and very sensitive. So our hormones overall can be influenced both by our hormones, but it can also be influenced by our production levels. Okay, so we have somebody arriving in there now. So welcome, Avril. We're just going through a little bit of a presentation, Avril, on the hormonal cycle. So and I said I just record it because I would be able to send it out into the group, and people would have it afterwards to look back on. So yeah, so I'll start sharing. I'll keep talking, and if there's any questions or whatever, you can ask me en route and put them into the chat box. And as well, hopefully we'll have a few more joining as well.
No bother.
That's great, Avril. Thanks very much. Okay, so very much I thought that I would work towards giving you a little bit more information around kind of the hormones that cover everything. So they are not just about, hormones are not just about the reproduction cycle. They very much work with our energy levels, our hunger, our blood sugar, our stress responses, as I mentioned, our reproduction and our labor, lactation, love, our bonding, our blood pressure, our sleep and happiness. So this is, it really comes into every area of our life, our hormones do. And sometimes we don't actually identify that they might be hormonal that's going on, when, especially when if it's emotional. So it does trigger, it does have a response. So the more we look after our hormones, the more we'll feel better as we go through the different phases of our lives. So some of the signs and symptoms of our hormones out of balance, and these can be anything from exhaustion, need caffeine to keep going, cravings, putting on weight, especially weight around the middle has a huge factor, because this is where our estrogen receptors are, is kind of around the middle. We can get a lot of headaches when it comes to the imbalance of our hormones, as with brain fog, memory problems, and hence then as we get older, our estrogen drops, and we can, you know, not think in the right way, or we might forget things. So night sweats can be a huge factor when our hormones are out of balance. And as you can see, you know, many more, like no periods, can't sleep, tired but wired at bedtime, because our blood sugar balance is really controlled by our hormones as well, and the hormone is insulin. So very much a lot of what we think and feel is controlled by our hormones, and as is cold feet. So again, signs your hormones are out of balance. We have again another list of, you know, being grumpy, depressed, anxious, cry easily, and this can be really in ovulation or pre-ovulation, or really when we go into the luteal phase. And again, it depends on the person, if we have high estrogen, if we have low estrogen, and again, it can be constipation, excess hair, losing of hair, thinning of the eyebrows, loss of the sex drive, especially this is quite high when we go into menopause, because again, we're losing both our estrogen, testosterone, and or progesterone, but the one for the sex drive is very much around the testosterone, which really spikes before ovulation, in order for that process to happen more naturally. So again, the vaginal dryness has a huge impact, and this again is when our hormones are being reduced. The lack of shall we say estrogen really plumps up the skin, and plumps up again down, if we say down by the shall we say the uterus and down into the vagina, that whole area, the skin down around there is usually very plump when we have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. But as we get older, it really starts to degenerate and starts to deplete. So we have what is like crepe paper. So the vaginal dryness and the pain can be quite excruciating for some people, as is the joint pains and the dry skin as well. So how do we work with the cycle? So there's really kind of, I suppose, two phases of our cycle. And just to give you kind of an overview of the cycle, we have the follicular phase, and we have ovulation and luteal phase. So in the follicular phase, we have the rise of estrogen, we have the rise of progesterone. But first, before any of those kind of take off, we would have both the FSH, which is our follicle stimulating hormone, and or luteal hormone being stimulated there. So those two are really key, and we get those messages right from the hypothalamus in the brain. They stimulate the hormones, they stimulate the follicles to start producing. And remember, we have thousands of eggs. We are reared with thousands of eggs in our ovaries, and the follicle stimulating hormone is really about stimulating them and getting them ready for both for ovulation and then for the egg to be released. So the follicle phase is when the FSH and the LH starts rising and starts stimulating in the ovaries. You're in the follicular phase, which is the first phase, and that phase can be a long cycle or it can be a short cycle. So it can be, some people have 28 days, some people have 38-day cycles. So there's two phases. The first will be either a short phase or it'll be a long phase. It can be 14 days or it can be 21 days, but the second phase is always 14 days, and that's in the luteal phase. So the first phase is about really increasing our hormones. So we increase the eggs and really start stimulating for ovulation and getting it ready for ovulation on day 14. Okay, so that's in the first phase. And then as we kind of go into the second phase, we have the egg, hopefully, if we're going into pregnancy, and then the progesterone is released, as is the placenta takes over a few weeks later, and things progress there when the egg is sent into the uterus for it to be in the womb, and then it starts growing there. And what happens in there then is that in the uterus we have the endometrium, which is the lining in the uterus, and that really starts building up. Again, that comes from the progesterone, and it starts building up the uterus really to get ready for the preparation of creating a pregnancy and baby. So then from that phase also, if the egg isn't, shall we say, stimulated, it drops, and we have what is called the corpus luteum, and that really is where we have that phase of the progesterone again comes in, and what's happening then is starting to reduce, and it goes to either day 28, or shall we say day 35, depending on the cycle. So then if it's not stimulated, or if the egg isn't released and we don't have a pregnancy, then the uterus releases and the bleeding starts, and that's our period then that will last for 1 to 8 days. So these are very sensitive, shall we say, cycles, and they're all stimulated by the hypothalamus in the brain, and they're all stimulated by different hormones that can come from the hypothalamus, as I mentioned, the anterior, the follicles in the ovaries, the corpus luteum as well, as I said, is a big part of it, and the embryo being released. So these are all very, as I said, sensitive with regards to estrogen being produced, progesterone, rise and fall of progesterone. Progesterone is really in the second phase. It doesn't do much in the first phase, but in the second phase it has a part to play, because what it does is it lines the womb, gets that ready, gets the endometrium in the uterus, and then the womb all in preparation, and it starts building up a nice little bed. And then we have the luteinizing phase and the follicle stimulating hormone, which is in the first phases. So very much it's all about the hormones being at the right level at the right time for everything to work efficiently. If this isn't happening, then they go out of balance and they go out of cycle. So how then is the lowdown on the PMS, which is the balance of estrogen and progesterone, is slightly off kilter. So in the first phase, I mentioned that the estrogen rises, the progesterone rises, and if we get too much progesterone, or if we get too much estrogen in the first phase, it very much can over dominate, or if we get too little, we don't have enough to produce or stimulate the egg in the ovary, so from the follicle stimulating hormone. So then the progesterone is slightly off kilter, you know, so it really, stress plays an important part there then, and that's our cortisol hormone. So it can cause symptoms from heavy painful periods, mood swings, anger, irritability, backache, abdominal cramps, bloating, water retention, migraines, and poor concentration. And all of these are when our symptoms can be out of balance. So especially around the heavy, painful periods, around the menstruation, this can be a cause of not getting enough calcium before our period, because we can be taking in too much phosphorus. And this can come from red meats, whereas if we avoid red meats, take in more calcium, green foods like our spinach or kales or legumes, it can have a really beneficial effect and reduce our cramping, and it can balance our mood swings. Again, taking in foods like evening primrose, fish oil has a huge impact in reducing, shall we say, the heavy period symptoms, but also, as does vitamin E, again reduces abdominal cramps and reduces bloating and water retention. So again, if our estrogen is maybe too high and we're overproducing on the estrogen, we can suffer from migraines and poor concentration, which is very symptomatic really in a lot of cases. Fibroids, again, a lot of people as they get older, especially around coming up to perimenopause and coming into maybe menopause, they can have fibroids, and they very much develop on the muscle wall in the womb, in the uterus, and that can be very, very painful, and lots of bleeding as well there. So heavy periods, painful periods, lower back pain, frequent need to urinate, constipation, again, and of course discomfort during sex, because the fibroids can be quite big as well. So just noting your own symptoms and what you're suffering from, whether it's coming into perimenopause or coming into menopause, these can all have an impact on how we're feeling. And usually when we're coming up to menopause, our periods can be quite heightened, because the estrogen levels can be quite heightened for a certain period, and then they drop quite quickly. But again, it depends on the person who gets fibroids. 1 in 3 women. I know a number of people that have fibroids and have them had them removed. So mostly around the ages of 30 to 50 in the age group. Risk increases when you are overweight. Women with children less likely to get them, and some women suffer and don't have symptoms and others do. It just depends on the individual. Perimenopause, again, is the transition to menopause, which normally happens in the 40s and can last to 5 to 10 years. The majority of women will experience symptoms and change from country to country depending on diet. So which hormones are involved? Again, it goes back to the estrogen levels, and the testosterone levels decline. Progesterone falls even faster. So remember, progesterone, if we went back to the cycle, is on the second part, which is on the luteal phase. And again, because it doesn't really do much in the first phase, when it falls in the second phase, that's when our bone health goes down, our density goes down, but also our skin health can be depleted as well, and the sponge starts depleting, so it becomes more like crepe paper. Sometimes we can see our skin gets a little bit thinner, and the same on the lining of our womb and on our uterus as well. So again, incontinence there can be a symptom, because that lining again can be something that's depleted, and so just be mindful of on where we are as we get older, and it does have a huge impact. Thyroid is also affected, so our energies can be quite low. There are estrogen receptors all over the body, so it affects very far and reaching, right from the top of our head down to our tippy toes. Our hot flushes, changes in our menstrual cycle, and again, going back to the follicular phase, which is the first phase, if our estrogen isn't, rising and it's completely dropped, going into the menopause, then you'll have a knock-on effect in the luteal phase, which will be the progesterone, and again the testosterone as well. And the testosterone is really around the sex drive, and it promotes ovulation, and for that cycle, for that part to be, shall we say, ovulation to happen, and for it all to be in preparation. So again, changes in the menstrual cycle, more PMT around sore breasts, brain mood, brain fog, forgetfulness, headaches, anxiety can have a huge factor as well. more symptoms in perimenopause, allergies, intolerances, because we have hormones in the gut, and we'll discuss them in a minute. And the gut usually has a big impact when it comes to, again, our weight gain, and also how we're feeling and our digestion around bloating. So this can be a huge factor. Itchy skin, change in body odor is a huge thing as well for women as we get older. And as I said, the incontinence, vaginal dryness, and of course we can susceptible to UTIs as well, thrush and pain, bleeding. So again, osteoporosis is a huge one for many, many people, and don't actually realize they actually have osteoporosis, or their bone density is being reduced as they go through menopause and beyond. So things that can actually support us can be HRT. There's been a lot of talk over the last number of years about our HRT, and also about how we can support that. And we can, again, HRT, there's been a lot of new types of HRT on the market, and you know, don't feel that if you're medically not getting the estrogen, progesterone, and your symptoms are overbearing and you can't find the right balance, well, do get your hormones checked to see if there's the enzyme that's not converting your hormones even through the natural process, which is through foods. So you might be having symptoms that might be beyond natural, and that you might need some medical intervention. Again, the vaginal estrogen, which is a gel, it doesn't interfere, or it doesn't absorb estrogens into the system, so it's quite safe. And these days there's been a lot of research on that as well. So if you feel that, again, for the vaginal dryness, or also to support the incontinence, can really have a good effect and a knock-on, which can have another form medically, I suppose, is the antidepressants, and I wouldn't really be advocating those as much as possible, more than the natural route if we can. But again, if we have medical issues, we should really get them checked, and be mindful of the red flag signs. So definitely learning to rebalance your body. We're going to be looking at the blood sugar, the functional foods, our liver support, and digestive health. And these all have a huge impact when it comes to our hormones. We might think it, but they absolutely do. As I mentioned, all those hormones at the start there. So think, where's the protein at every meal? I mentioned this throughout every program, every monthly program. Where's your protein? Are you getting enough protein in your foods, your eggs, your nuts, your chicken? If you're a vegetarian, get your beans, your pulses, your lentils, and really keeping them on top. Fill up on your veggies. Don't overeat on your starches, like your carrots and parsnips. Really help to balance your blood sugar. Eat as many different colors as possible. Keep as much variety. Think carefully about quality and quantity of starchy carbs. These can make you feel really sluggish, like pastas, breads. Lots of rice as well can make you kind of starchy. So more veg, more fruit, along those lines, and definitely more protein, because as we get older, we need protein really to rebuild our muscle and keep us strong. So don't fear the fat, because every hormone in our body is made up of fat. So we need good essential fat for health, and the building block of all our hormones, and included at your pearl. So your fish oils, your fish, your omegas, even your evening primrose have a huge impact on how our hormones affect us into perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Phytoestrogens have a huge impact, and I've mentioned them in today's post, which is all about our sources of estrogens that mimic the estrogen in the body, and as it declines, the food can really support it to mimic it and try and increase it as best as can. So it's trying to find its balance. And the same, it counteracts the effect of this estrogen. So again, eating our lentils, our beans, our chickpeas, and even tofu, miso have a great impact. Flaxseed, again, has a huge impact with mimicking our estrogens, and also has omega-3, really to support the prostaglandins, which also are hormones that talk to our overall hormonal bodily health in the receptors. So apples, pears, carrots, fennel, onion, garlic, these all have a huge impact and are a part of the phytoestrogens and the alfalfa. I love the food support, because really this is a big part for everybody on the program. The broccoli, the garlic, spinach, kale, and even artichoke has a huge impact, because that really supports the blood sugar and also our liver. And really getting the liver working has a huge impact when it comes to detoxification of any excess estrogens, because what can happen is if we take in too many estrogens through our environment, through our foods, from dairies or animals, or if we take in too much estrogen through our skin, through the products, the PBAs, or if we take in too much estrogen through our environmental, it can cause an excess estrogen, which can have a knock-on effect both in the liver to try and break down, but also in the bowel. And sometimes in the bowel, if we're not going to the toilet once a day, and we have a little bit of constipation, the hormones can be reabsorbed back into the system and cause a little bit of excess estrogen. So again, the dominance is there. We might be having hot flushes, we might be having symptoms. So using food as a way of letting go and really detoxing the body is huge. Digestion and hormones, again, welcome to the estrobolome, and that's made up of bacteria, viruses, yeasts, and fungi. So sometimes if we have bacteria overgrowth, which can be in the form of candida, and if we really work on this and eliminate it and support it, it can reduce the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause as well. And you can really see a big difference with how we balance. And one of the things there is citricidal extract is great. It's just a small little tube, and we can add 2 or 3 drops into water and really swivel in our mouth. And as well, the apple cider vinegar is great as well, to really support and get rid of any of the viruses and kind of balance that area. But definitely looking at the candida and eliminating sugars, and really reducing our sugar intake can have a big impact. Modulates estrogen and how it is metabolized. So it very much is how everything is working in our digestive system. So we can get symptoms of bloating, wind, belching, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, gurgling. The impact of stress. Cortisol has a huge impact, and that follows a pattern because we have night and day. So night, we wake up, we should be nice and calm, and then our stress hormones should kind of rise during the day and fall again in the evening, as does our hunger, our night and day. Estrogen levels affect how your body deals with stress, of course. And if we have high levels of stress in the morning, it really starts imbalances our blood sugar. We start craving, we start reaching for foods, coffee, teas to really bring them back up again. And this is a revolving cycle. So a good care plan is not just a nice thing to do. It really supports how our body is functioning. And that's it. So I just wanted to run through really all about the hormones and to give you a quick synopsis really on hormonal health. I hope I've kind of touched on areas there that resonated with you, and you any questions, please do come back to me, and I would be happy to support you in any way I can. So yeah, and the program, as I said, is run for 14 days. The first part of the program is really to focus on the food, the de-stress, and the self-care, which is the posts that are going up over these courses, over these days. And the second part is the detox and the digestion. So in week 1, we've had Suzanne Carney on this morning around the pelvic health, and we've also looking at the de-stress side of it, which is we have the yoga on tomorrow evening. I've put up the breathing exercises, which have a huge impact on really reducing our stress, and the self-care. So really start working with those breathing exercises morning and evening, and really start supporting your overall well-being with regards to bringing in exercises and weight-bearing exercises. And I know we have one of the ladies here in the group, and she does a lot of weight-bearing exercises and has really supported her as she's got that little bit shall we say older, not old, older, but older, and it's really supported her in managing symptoms. So I'd like to thank everybody that listen in, and as I said, if you have any questions, please do jump on and let me know. And I'm just going to stop sharing now, and yeah, so thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. No, Avril, sorry.
That's all right, no hassle at all. The weight bearing has also been hugely beneficial for the incontinence side.
Oh, go away. Brilliant.
When you're lifting weights, by definition, you have to pull in your pelvis.
That's very true.
If you're lifting properly. So you're pulling in everything. And if you can even do it, you don't have to do it very often or huge, in great intensity, but just doing it on a regular basis. Because I had a serious problem with incontinence. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I haven't bought any pads in 12 months.
Wow.
Longer. It doesn't happen anymore.
Wow.
And I went through about 5 years of it.
Oh my God, Avril, that's a huge benefit, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's only as you were talking that I was like thinking about it. Yeah. If you learn to lift properly, and I suppose that's one of the things I would, wherever people go to learn to lift, that they learn to lift not with their backs, because as you say, women getting older, they have the osteoporosis and the bone density disimprovement. The weight bearing improves bone density, but if people aren't lifting with their thighs and don't learn to lift properly, then they're going to do more damage than good to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the incontinence side, amazing.
Yeah, and there is an awful lot of women that suffer from incontinence. There is after they have childbirth that don't get it sorted. And even I had 2 cesarean sections, so my muscles were switched off completely, and I had to learn how to retrain them to be able to do that. You know what I mean? So
what weights were your babies?
I had 12 pounds and 13.
Holy!
Was it? No, sorry.
Oh,
sorry. I had 8, 12 and 8, 13.
And I had a 9, 15.
Wow. So, yeah, I know mine were, but that's big. Yours was bigger than mine. Jeepers tonight.
Yeah, but that's where the problem started. And I did go to a physio for help, but she didn't teach me how to lift properly.
No, they don't. The physios don't really.
They just don't have a clue.
Yeah. No, they don't actually. And
so I really frustrating.
Yeah, it is, because you lose that muscle, and it's so frustrating, number one, but it's also it's embarrassing as well. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it?
Hugely.
Do you know what I mean? Yes, it's just embarrassing. Like when you've been able to do this from a very young age, or maybe not, and then you train yourself obviously in different areas, of hygiene and whatnot, and then as you get older and you have babies and stuff, and then you're coming up against problems, because after childbirth you've a huge impact. So first of all, you've had a child, which has been a big shock to the system. Then you've had so you're trying to get over that, and then you've had other areas that have knocked on, like the incontinence, the muscles not kicking in, and I think even having gone into menopause myself, do you know what I mean? Even the vaginal dryness, that part of it has had a huge impact, with how you feel as well. Do you know what I mean? So and that's as a woman, you know what I mean? So there are things that you can do, thank God, so and the more we know about these things, the more the women know about these things, the better, because and it's such a shame. Like, I was with a whole school yesterday, Barry Rose School, all day, and the girls, and I was talking about, they were going from 6th class into 1st year, and the minute I mentioned that the bodies will be changing and the hormones will be kicking in, the girls started looking at each other and just getting embarrassed. It shouldn't be like that,
totally. Yeah,
it's the same as it was in my day. You know what I mean? Why does it have to be like that? You know what I mean? So
and that's a mixed school, isn't it?
Yeah. So like the boys haven't a clue.
I'm shocked.
Now.
No, that's true.
They're probably told the facts of life, but they're probably embarrassed, you know what I mean, because they might have been told the facts of life in school, and oh my God, is this happening to us? And do you know what I mean, we're learning to be big girls, and do you know what I mean? So, but it's just, it's still a taboo subject, really, Avril, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Hence, we very little on tonight. People don't want to talk about it. Which is such a shame.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's really weird that it's going to be another couple of generations before people are comfortable.
Yeah,
talking about
it. Because, well, we'll see now over the next few generations, because we've trends now coming in, do you know what I mean? And we've same sex and, you know, all sorts of different, shall we say, sexual, not sexual, but female males, do you know what I mean? So there'll be a lot more chatter and talk about, you know, how people react and, you know, how we are.
There will, until it comes to menopause. Women still aren't talking about it at all.
No,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I still.
It's like a subject that you're supposed to sail through, and if you're not sailing through, get HRT. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, why can't we just talk about it? Now, I know some people find it very difficult to talk about, you know what I mean? They're not really there yet. Now, it's come a bit of a way, but it hasn't come, you know, hugely. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think people think that, you know, when they've had a baby, or, you know, when not having a baby, you know, menopause symptoms or postmenopause symptoms or perimenopause symptoms are just to do with your periods.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that it's every hair on your body, it's every fat cell in your body that really has a hormonal talk. You know what I mean? Every receptor in your body is talking. And that's why our brain is so important as we get older, you know, to function at optimum, you know. So did I go too fast, Avril? I hope I didn't go too fast. Did I?
No. And but as far as I was listening to you, and I was thinking, you're recording it. So for people who are going to listen back, they can go backwards and forwards as much as they want. Okay. If you go too slow, people get bored. And this way you kept it moving. I liked your pace.
Okay.
I don't. And I'm glad that you didn't read out all the symptoms of every slide, because that drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah,
totally insane.
I didn't want to do that, you know. I just didn't, you know. They're all very different, and symptoms are different.
Absolutely,
are different. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, you know as well as I do, Michelle. We've gone to events, and literally, if they had just put up the slides and not talked, we'd have learned more, because all they did was want to listen to the sound of their own voices, listing every single item on a slide, and it's at big events as well as small events, and people who should know better, who spend their times giving lectures, and all they can do is read.
Yeah, read off the slides.
So boring.
I mean, do you think I could reduce the slides, Avril, or do you think that's enough? Or I don't want to bore people.
No, you're not boring people if they.
Okay.
Yeah, but if they want to skip a slide, they can skip a slide.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough, I suppose. Yeah.
So don't go on that. Secondly, those who are afraid to ask questions or haven't got the process in their heads.
Yeah.
They needed to have step 1 to step 10. They need to, you know, not skipping around hither and thither.
I know.
Hold on to it as is.
Okay. No, that's great.
Definitely.
Actually, you're very good. I thought I'd have a few more. They were talking about hormones this morning on the check-in, and Septa said that she was coming, and there was a few others said that they were coming as well. But jeepers, tonight,
for sure.
Things turn up, Avril. I just think the more we've gone into this year, people don't want to be on Zoom as much. Do you know what I mean? Which is a shame, really. But
it's not just not being on Zoom. It's just there's more uncertainty.
Maybe.
I'm meeting people who they're just waiting for the other boot to fall. They're afraid to commit to anything. Like, I'm organizing cleaning of the cathedral, and I literally put it on it. See how you're fixed on the day. You know, if you don't turn up, you don't turn up. Fine, because I'll just get on with it anyway.
Yeah.
But people are afraid because today everybody is fine, and tomorrow somebody's gone with COVID.
Yeah.
It used to be that somebody had broken a leg. Now it's somebody's got COVID, which is even worse.
I know.
In terms of uncertainty. So don't worry about that at all.
Yeah. No,
at least you've got it recorded now.
I know, absolutely, it's great. It's recorded, it's up there, and I know. Did you get? You probably might have got a chance to look at Suzanne's one, Avril. Did you?
I didn't know. No, I didn't. But I'll look at it.
She's a physio in Westport, and she's a pelvic health physio, and she's very good. So again, all around that area as well. She talks about breast checking. She talks about certain things in her clinic that women, you know, should do. So definitely it's one to watch as well. I thought it was very good. Yeah, very good. So So
I think I'm through the other side of it. Being
brilliant.
62 in May.
Wow, that's brilliant. God.
But I'm still getting hot flushes.
Okay, so again, you know, estrogen foods are great. You know, are you having your sage tea, Avril?
Yes.
Yuck. Okay.
I stick my water. I'm doing my water. I'm doing my greens. I'm doing all those sort of things. But I tried the sage tea. I think I prefer to eat hay or drink hay. So what I do is I add sage into my cooking.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So there's a supplement that you can buy. It's BioCare. It's called Menopause, and it's a lovely supplement, Avril. So that might really help you. It's called it's called Menopause, but there's vitamin E in it. There's B vitamins, which helps to reduce stress, which can I suppose stimulate the hot flushes, because what happens is that when the progesterone is reduced, the temperature drops, or you know what I mean. So the temperature is regulated when progesterone is produced in the womb. So what happens is that when our progesterone drops, then that temperature kind of goes out of balance. So you know, having a supplement really to kind of counteract it would be great, and it would really help that stress piece as well. So there's lovely nutrients in it. There's bees in it. You're not on any medication, Avril, are you?
None. Thanks be to heavens.
Yeah. So this is a nice little one.
Who makes it?
It's a company called BioCare. So it's nicely made. You'll get it in any of the organic shops, and it's called. Let me just make sure. Let's see. All right. Okay. I can't minimize it there. I put it up.
That's okay. I'll have a look. I'll have a look at the BioCare website, and I'll check it out.
What I'll do is I'll send it to you, and you just have it. I put it up on I talked about it this morning on my my check-in, my Wednesday check-in, and Septa was asking about it. So I said, yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's a really nice one and works really well, and it's a new one on the market. So I think it's nice and gentle as well, and kind of one a day, Avril, would be fine for you. So you'd get 3 months supply out of it, So I think there's 90 tablets in it, so which would be nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just those. Not that I have a stressful life or anything like that.
But you see. You do and you don't, you do and you don't. And some days you do and some days you don't. But every day you're on the road, you're hitting stress. Oh, you are, yeah. It's just behind a car, when you get out of the car, when you're parking, all of those kind of things really
there's two workmen watching you trying to park the van in Oliver Plunkett Street, and you don't want to hit the bloody bollards on the left-hand side.
I think you're brilliant, Avril. You're brilliant to be going up into Cork City and delivering, and delivering. Oh my God, absolutely brilliant. Because you're at an age as well, where you should be, minding yourself, and self-care is a huge impact. But what you're doing is huge, because you're lifting heavy weights every day, you're walking every day. I mean, that's huge for your body. So you're really looking after yourself. That piece, do you know what I mean? I would say, trying to do 50-50 what you're doing if you could, so, but would you lift every day, all day, Avril, or would you lift 20% of the day?
It depends. I could have upwards of 15 deliveries in a day, and that could range from a 20 kilo crate to 3 or 4. But what I have is I have a trolley. So so then I have a trolley. It's a 2-wheeler. So you lift, say today now I had one place I was going to with 3 crates, 5 crates. And so you put all 5 crates on, and then you do a balancing act to get the fulcrum to the right point where you can actually level, and then you can actually pull it with one hand. So that's actually strengthening. That's actually strengthening my arms as well, being able to pull with one hand. And then there's one place I deliver to where there's a bit of a slope. So I end up pulling it up the slope. It's not long. It could be 6 or 7 steps, but actually the effort to pull, it's on the backs of the legs just to pull. So then, they're short and sharp.
Yes.
Those sort of things.
Which is brilliant for menopause, the short ones, the sharp ones, because you're doing the resistance exercise and then you're taking a rest. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it really supports the blood sugar.
Yeah. And then you meet men who sort of going, sometimes you go to somewhere and there's a guy who looks and you're taking off a crate, or if they don't need all the crates off, and they're like, no, I'll do it. And I'm going, who do you think put it on the trolley? What, somebody has to put it on, and I've nobody to help me. That's fun. That it really is fun. And anybody who sees me up Oliver Plunkett Street today in shorts and my bright green Ross Carberry jacket and grey hair, needing a haircut, fascinating experience to observe, I'm sure.
So you looked fab, Avril. Looked fab.
I did, yeah.
Get the legs out anyway, get the tan on. I think
the legs are out. I never put on tan. It'll just happen if it happens.
Yes, do you go brown?
I used to. I take a bit of colour, but I'll never be. I get freckles.
That's okay. That's what I get freckles too. Join them all up into one. Join them all up
absolutely,
into one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
listen, thank you very much for good night. No bother at all.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.